Welcome, everybody. How are we today? How are we today? The rain held out so that we could start an amazing journey together. I'd like to thank you all for being here. October 1st is the beginning of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And why does this matter? Because in this country, every 9 seconds, a woman is beaten by a man. Every 9 seconds. Domestic violence isn't just a soundbite on TV. It isn't what's just happening with the NFL. The prevalence and its insidious nature is something that's experienced by people day in and day out. And it's time for us to say, hey, this is not okay. I'd like to do a special shout out to the many gentlemen that I see around. Guys, we have a responsibility, a very serious responsibility to look at our brothers, look at each other, and know that we will not stand for violence toward women. It's time for us to look around us and say, no more. Knock it off. This is not what it means to be a man. So I'm honored today to stand before you and to thank the wonderful staff. If you see the Violence is Not Strength shirt, these are people who day in and day out provide prevention services and response services to your community. So if I can ask to indulge you on the beginning of October to give them a little bit of a round of applause. They are there for the people that need them in your county every single day. So can you please join me in recognizing the staff? I'm Rick Azzaro, and I have the privilege today of joining you as a representative of both the YWCA, Access York, and the Victims Assistance Center. And I am always, always honored to introduce the incomparable talent of our Temple Guard team. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Temple Guard.
It's amazing. As always, it's the award-winning Temple Guard of YWCA York. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Nicole Lindemeyer. I'm the Community Education Director for the YWCA York. And I am very, very pleased and proud to introduce to you the York City Poet Laureate, Christine Lincoln, who is going to please us with her beautiful words. Please welcome Christine.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am so honored to be here at this event. I love the people at York Access and the Victims Assistance Center. I can't think of a more dedicated and committed and passionate group of people that I am honored to work alongside. So I thought I would share my story. When I was asked to be the speaker, it was difficult because I just never wanted to be that girl, you know, the one who was a victim of domestic abuse and violence. And so even though I've been a public speaker for 15 years, I've never once told my story in public. But when I was 18 years old, I met a man. He was a little bit older than me, and we dated off and on for 6 years. And then when I was 24 years old, I got married to him. 5 days after I got married, he beat me for the first time. There was no inkling during the courtship or during the relationship that he was the kind of man who would ever harm a woman. But once I signed that paper, he believed in his heart that he owned me and that he could do whatever he wanted to do with me. And so we had just got back home. We're still on our honeymoon, and my best friend at the time and her husband was giving us a party that day, and that morning he beat me. He dropped me off at her house, and I'll never forget the look on her face when she opened the door and saw me. I had on sunglasses, but it couldn't hide the swollen, bruised face. And she was devastated. I was numb. I remember her saying, "He did this to you." She just kept saying, "He did this to you." And my husband did this to me. So all that day she canceled the party, and she talked to me, and she asked me that magical question, "What are you gonna do?" And all I could think of was the money that my parents had spent on my wedding, and my grandfather, who was dying at the time, and how disappointed they would be. And so I told her this, and she said to me, "I think you should stay. I think you should give him another chance." And so I stayed. They called him over that day, and they counseled us. And he was so contrite and broken and crying. And at the time, being 24, I thought, this man really is regretful for the pain that he caused me. But let me tell you something. There's something deeply disturbing in the man who has to cry like that over his woman, his wife, because he knows in his heart that he has done something horrible to deeply damage her. And I stayed for 2.5 years. And in the 2.5 years, the abuse escalated. It became more frequent. It became more violent. It became more dark. It became more degrading and humiliating, until one day I stood with a gun to my head and I left. It is a miracle that I'm standing here today with my life. It's a miracle that I'm standing here as Poet Laureate. See, he told me that I was nothing, and that I would never be anything, and that I would never do anything, and I believed him. But everything he said was a lie. When Nicole asked me to do this, she said, "You are a survivor." I'd never considered myself a survivor. I'd only considered myself weak, perhaps a person of poor judgment when it came to men, perhaps a victim, perhaps, embarrassed, ashamed. Even in 2014, there's so much victim blaming and so much shame that's put on the shoulders of the women who are being abused. I didn't want to be that girl, but I am a survivor. And what I am is powerful, and I am resilient, and I am here today. my story, if by sharing my story, one woman decides she's had enough and she's leaving, then I've been victorious. I wrote a poem that says everything better than I can ever say because I'm a poet. It's called Back to the Blossoming, and it goes like this. I'll kill the man who ever puts his hands on me, and I believe this until he first hit me. No, beat me. He beat me. 1 week after we walked the aisle and exchanged vows and cut the cake, and I loved him even after. So I stayed. He promised he would change. He promised me things like, I'll never hit you again, like I'd rather cut off my own hands. And I believed him, and I stayed. He was just jealous enough to feel like love, like I must have you. And that feels like love to a girl who's young and bruised and butterfly beautiful, until he beat me again and again and again. And come on, Chris, get over it. No. If getting over it means never sharing my story or not exposing my scars or not revealing my heart, I will never get over it. See, there's something wrong in a wife who has to wear sunglasses and hats pulled to cover her face, her busted lips, her 2 black eyes to hide and disguise her husband's disgrace. But I will recover. I will rediscover what's been lost. I'll take back what's been stolen, battered, controlled. I'll shed this shame until all that remains for me is love. I will be made whole again, and I will heal. I will scoop myself up from this ground like crumbs, scattered on a path, this trail of brokenness leading me back to, if not home, then at least back to the blossoming, and I will live.
Christine, that there are no words. So we're going to take a pause. Let these sirens go by. They're probably responding to a domestic anyway. And then we're going to have a beautiful musical performance by the amazing, the very, very talented Mylea Thompson, who is going to sing a beautiful and very, very relevant song for us. Mylea?
Good afternoon. That was an amazing testimony, and it did get to me. The name of my song is Feeling Good, because on the other side of the abuse that takes place is your ability to recover and to feel good. We had a little bit of technical difficulty with our music, so I'm going to sing this a cappella for you. Feeling Good by Nina Simone. Birds in the sky, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life, and I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossoms on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life, and I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, that's what I mean. Sleep in peace till the day is done, that's what I mean. It's a new world and a bold world, and I'm feeling good. Yeah, yeah, I'm feeling good.
Again, wow, there's some incredibly beautiful women with such profound talents here. We also have some great talent in a few elected officials, talent to really care and support our efforts. When we try to help victims, they help us. And they are our beautiful York City Mayor, Kim Bracey, along with our very talented and lovely county commissioners, Chris Riley, Doug Hoke, and Steve Chronister, who are going to present a joint proclamation honoring Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yeah. It's a pleasure to be here today on behalf of the County Commissioners and Mayor, and I appreciate law enforcement people being here and other elected officials. I see the DA in the corner here. We certainly appreciate that. I'm going to read this proclamation, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, October 2014. Whereas domestic violence is a serious and often deadly crime that has devastating effects on our families and our communities. Domestic violence is a leading cause of injury to women in the United States. On average, 1 in 4 women will be victim of domestic violence at some point in her lifetime. Women comprise over 90% of all victims of domestic violence and are far more likely to suffer more serious injuries during an assault than are male victims. Fewer than 20% of victims who report an injury from intimate partner violence seek medical treatment following the injury. Domestic violence incidents account for the largest category of calls to police each year, yet domestic violence is still one of the most chronically underreported crimes. Only about 20% of those who experience intimate partner violence obtain protection from abuse orders. Victims of domestic violence face an array of barriers to breaking free from abusive relationships, including the need for safety, affordable housing, family-sustaining jobs, and effective job training, transportation, safe and affordable child care, legal assistance in divorce and custody cases, and the coordinated efforts of police, prosecutors, and judges in prioritizing safety for victims and accountability for perpetrators. It is important that we recognize the dedication and success of Access York and the Victim Assistance Center programs of the YWCA York and the York County Task Force for Domestic Violence, who are committed to working towards safety and justice for victims and their children. Now, therefore, we, the York City Mayor and the York County Commissioners of Pennsylvania, do hereby proclaim October 2014 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and encourage all citizens to diligently work towards the elimination of domestic violence. It's given this day in York, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, on the first day of October, in the year of our Lord, 2014, and it's signed by the Mayor of the York City and the County Commissioners, the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you.
Continuing on, we have another elected official who is here to talk about an issue that is also very, very dear to him and to his work, and it is our state representative, Kevin Schreiber. Please come.
Thank you all very much for coming out today. Thank you, of course, to the York YWCA. Thank you to our Mayor, Kim Bracey. Thank you to our county commissioners, our district attorney, Kearney. But most importantly, thank you to our students who are with us today. Thank you guys very much for, as always, an excellent and spirited performance. And thank you to all of the staff that are on the front lines in helping to prevent and helping to promote awareness for this horrible plague on our society and domestic violence. As a member of the House of Representatives, specifically the Women's Health Caucus, I'm proud to be here this afternoon to help kick off the Domestic Violence Awareness Month of October. The Women's Health Caucus at the House of Representatives, just as a quick FYI, is a bipartisan, meaning Republican and Democrat, bicameral, meaning Senate and House. It's a caucus of several members working together to create effective progressive legislation to benefit and serve women throughout our Commonwealth. However, what is shocking, also our coroner, Pam Gay, I just saw you there too, sorry about that, thank you for being here. It is shocking and unfortunate that in 2014, we need specific laws to correct practices that are unfair at best and deplorable or even fatal at worst. It is wrong in Pennsylvania that women earn an average of 84 cents to every dollar earned by their male counterpart for an equal job. We're trying to correct that with the Equal Pay Act in Pennsylvania. It is wrong that some employers refuse to provide sanitary conditions in the workplace for nursing mothers. We're trying to correct that with legislation. We recently introduced a bill to establish a statewide task force to evaluate the medical care offered to female veterans. We owe our veterans the absolute best care, and today, not surprisingly, we have more female vets than ever before in our country and in our Commonwealth. Physically and physiologically, there are fundamental differences between men and women. We know that. We want to ensure that proper care is given to female vets. A proud, noteworthy accomplishment in 2014 was the signing into law of House Bill 2107. This was signed into law in July of 2014. It is now officially Act 115, and this law makes it illegal the use and distribution of intimate images for other nefarious or intimidating purposes. Makes this illegal. This is what we have come to know, unfortunately, as revenge porn. We have now made this illegal in the state of Pennsylvania. Specifically, and again, it is amazing that we need a law to do this. Specifically today, I wanted to touch on a bill that is officially introduced. With the advancements of technology, our cell phones have become essentially an extension of our person. Family share plans are at an all-time high. Use of cell technology, most of us here have our smartphones, we can't put them aside. Envision this. A victim of domestic violence is seeking to separate from her abusive partner. The individual has gone into shelter. She receives representation from a domestic violence attorney to obtain a protection from abuse order. It becomes very clear that she must break from her family cell phone plan with her abusive partner. But he, as the primary account holder, will refuse that ability to sever the contract. She believes he may be monitoring her with the location GPS tracking that is available on most smartphones today. Worse yet, the shared status of the cell plan, is yet one additional barrier to breaking free from this abusive situation. Today, I am proud to introduce House Bill 2528, which would address the cancellation of shared telephone plan contracts for victims of domestic violence. This bill would provide two avenues for relief and protection. It would enable a victim of domestic violence who is not a primary account holder to ask the courts to order the abuser to remove the victim from a shared telephone plan. Under this legislation, the courts would have the authority to order the abuser responsible for any early termination fees associated with severing that plan. For victims who are the primary account holders, this legislation would require cell service providers to waive any fees associated with removing the abuser from the shared telephone plan and provide the victim with a new telephone number and account within 24 hours if requested. Victims making such requests would have to do so in writing and provide proof of that they are in fact subject to domestic violence, and that can be in the form of any information given from our law enforcement or from the courts. This bill also provides for confidentiality on behalf of a service provider with respect to the victim's personal information or the documentation relating to the domestic violence. It would also enable the individual to turn off any of the Find My iPhone or GPS tracking device services that we now have, so that an individual, if taking refuge in a shelter, cannot be found by the abuser. The primary reason cited that victims are unable to break free from their abusive circumstances is the financial dependencies. This bill removes one more financial and even a technological dependence obstacle. It is a step, albeit it is a small step, but it is a step nonetheless to empower the victim to feel free and independent and, most importantly, safe from their abuser. I'd like to thank everyone present today. I absolutely want to thank the YWCA and Access York, the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence, our local York County Domestic Violence Task Force. With 27 co-sponsors on this legislation, I hope that we can get this bill to become law, continue to show you to everyone participating today. I would not be doing my job on behalf of the YWCA if I did not promote this First Friday's Walk a Mile in Her Shoe event in downtown York. And I'm proud to say for my fourth year and first year as state representative, I will be hosting yet another team, this year's team titled Happy Wife, Happy Life, which to date has raised approximately $2,270. We're in second place, guys. And for the gentlemen that have not yet signed up, I'm looking at you, District Attorney. We are still recruiting team members, and we can equip you with an excellent pair of bedazzled heels. And finally, one final note to the men present and certainly those watching, chivalry is not yet dead. We all have mothers, we have grandmothers, we have sisters, nieces, wives, we have dear friends. 90% of domestic violence abusers are male. Chances are incredibly likely that you know someone that has been in an abusive relationship. This is deplorably shameful. While domestic violence does not discriminate against individual, against sex, against sexual orientation or religion, we cannot cure these statistics without more men speaking up and standing up against violent behavior. We need to eradicate the sexually belittling and derogatory comments and the stereotypes from our society. Men, please join all of us today in taking a stand against domestic violence, but not yet just for today, not just for this month, but hereafter every day into the future. Thank you all very much for coming out today.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And if you are not in the district that elected Representative Schreiber, please contact your representative and ask them to support House Bill 2528. It's really important legislation, and we are very, very proud to have our local representative leading the charge. We're going to wrap up a little bit here, and I want to do so by introducing you to a full lineup of events that will be taking place over the month of October. Again, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we have so much fun planned. Fun that will help us celebrate our strength, that will help us alleviate some stress, and help us really build community together. The first one is what Kevin just mentioned. That is this Friday. It is the Walk a Mile in Her Shoes fundraising walk, featuring great men walking not so greatly in women's high heels for a mile through the streets of downtown. It is fantastic to watch. A little bit of schadenfreude, but if you have not already sponsored or signed up or found out more information about it, please go to our website, ywcayork.org, and get as much information as you need, or simply show up on Friday. It's at LSC Design, which is right at the end of George Street across from the stadium. We also have a ton of fun planned for the after party. After the walk, there'll be a family fun area for kids, a whole area featuring activities that feature the theme Hands Are Not for Hitting, for kids, and then also a little bit of adult fun as well. The next event I want to draw your attention to is an event called Raise Your Voices, which is a very powerful spoken word and poetry event that will be held on October 10th at 7 o'clock at Newgrounds Coffee House. Then on October 11th, which is a Saturday, Empire Beauty School is featuring a Day of Beauty event where all services will be, all the proceeds raised from their services will be donated to Access York. So stop in, get a purple manicure or something fun like that, and help us raise money to provide services to victims. And then on October 16th, we're having a conference featured by the Clergy Committee of the York County Task Force on Domestic Violence. The theme of the conference is domestic violence in faith communities, really highlighting the role that religion and spirituality play in the lives of victims as they're trying to break free from abuse. So October 16th starts at 9 o'clock, Yorktown Hotel. For more information on any of these events, please see our website or give us a call anytime. Finally, I just want to say in closing, for anyone who is currently being abused or struggling with the after effects of being abused, please know that you are not alone. You are not alone. You do not deserve to be abused, and there is a way out. Help is always available 24 hours a day, free of cost and free of judgment. Please reach out to us at Access York if you need help. We're always here for you. Thank you again for coming to this event today, and please join us in another event throughout the course of the month. To take us out, we want to again host Temple Guard. Go ahead, Mike.
Get a face! Get a face! Get a face! Get a face!